The North is cold and full of whispers.
Before we dive in, check the link in the description if you want exclusive timelines, members-only videos you won't find on YouTube. All on our Patreon. Winterfell's great hall roared with laughter and music. Torches blazed against stone walls. Servants moved between long tables carrying platters of roasted meat and pitchers of wine. At the high table, King Robert Baratheon sat beside Lord Eddard Stark, both men deep in their cups, reminiscing about battles fought 15 years past. Jon Snow sat at the back of the hall, not at the high table with his father and siblings, not even at the middle tables with the household knights. At the back, among the servants and stable hands, where bastards belonged. He wore simple black wool, no finery, no colors. Ghost lay at his feet, white fur stark against dark rushes. The direwolf's red eyes watched the crowd with animal wariness. Jon lifted his cup, watered wine. He drank. The hall spun. No, not the hall. His head, the cup fell from his hand. Wine splashed across the floor. Ghost's ears flattened. The direwolf growled, low and urgent. Jon's vision blurred. The hall stretched and compressed like a thing alive. Voices became thunder. Torchlight became fire. He tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't obey. Then the pain hit. It felt like his skull was splitting, like something vast and ancient was trying to force itself through a gap too small to contain it. Jon's head snapped back, his eyes rolled white, his body convulsed. Someone screamed, chairs scraped, footsteps pounded. Jon fell. The rushes rose up to meet him, his body seized, muscles locking, spine arching. Foam flecked his lips. The world went black, and in that blackness, something spoke. Words in a language Jon didn't know but somehow understood. High Valyrian, Old Valyrian, the tongue of dragon lords, Zaldrizes, Buzdari Ixos Dar. The blackness shattered. Jon's eyes opened, but they weren't Jon's eyes anymore. The gaze was different, ancient, calculating, cold as winter and old as stone. He sat up slowly. His hands were young, calloused from training but smooth, unscathed by battle, small. A boy's hands. He turned them over, studying them as if seeing hands for the first time. Faces swam into view. Maester Luwin knelt beside him, gray robes pooled on the floor, weathered face creased with concern. "Can you hear me, boy?" The language shifted, became the common tongue, but the accent was strange, formal, archaic, where, "You had a seizure," Luwin said, placing a hand on Jon's forehead. "Stay still, don't try to move." But Jon was already rising. His body felt foreign, too young, too weak. He'd been stronger than this, hadn't he? The memories were confused, layered, two lives bleeding together like watercolors and rain. The crowd parted. Lord Eddard Stark pushed through, gray eyes sharp with worry. "Jon, can you stand?" Jon looked at him, truly looked. Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North. Ned, the Honorable Ned Stark who'd ridden south to war against the Targaryens, who'd fought at the Trident, who'd helped Robert Baratheon take the Iron Throne. The recognition was visceral, not the recognition of a son seeing his father, the recognition of a king seeing a vassal lord. "Lord Stark," Jon said. The formality in his voice made Ned's eyes narrow. "I can stand." He did. Ghost pressed against his leg, warm and solid. Jon's hand found the direwolf's fur automatically, grounding himself in the sensation. Real. This was real. "Take him to his chambers," Ned said to Luwin. "I'll come check on him after the feast." Jon let them guide him through the hall. He walked steadily, mechanically, his mind racing. The faces of the guests blurred past. Stark bannermen, northern lords, and at the high table, still drinking, still laughing, the king. Robert Baratheon. Jon's hands clenched into fists. His chambers were small, a narrow bed, a chest for clothing, a window that looked north toward the wall. Maester Luwin made him drink something bitter, checked his pupils, asked him questions. Jon answered automatically, giving the responses expected of a boy who'd suffered a seizure. But inside, his mind was a storm. Finally, Luwin left. The door closed. Jon was alone. He walked to the polished bronze mirror on the wall, stared at his reflection. Dark hair, gray eyes, a northern face, young, 15 perhaps, 16 years old. Not the face he remembered, not silver hair and purple eyes, not a Targaryen face. He looked like Orys. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Orys Baratheon, his brother, his only friend, the bastard son of his father, raised as his companion his first hand of the king. This boy's face had the Baratheon look, the dark hair, the strong jaw forming beneath youth, not a Stark face at all. Jon's hands gripped the edge of the table. His breathing came faster. Fire and blood, he whispered to his reflection. The words of House Targaryen, his house, his legacy. Then, quieter, the secret his house had guarded for 300 years. From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire. The prophecy. The reason he'd conquered the 7 kingdoms, not for glory, not for power. For this, for the darkness he'd seen in his dreams, the long night returning, the dead rising, the world of men facing extinction. He built a kingdom to save it. And now he was here, 300 years later, in a bastard's body. In the north where the threat would come from, the gods had a sense of irony. Jon looked toward the window, toward the wall, invisible in the distance, but there, massive and ancient, holding back the darkness. I conquered these lands to save them from the darkness, he said quietly, and now I must do it again. A knock on the door. Jon turned. Enter. Ned Stark stepped inside. The Lord of Winterfell closed the door behind him, studied Jon with those gray Stark eyes that missed nothing. How do you feel? Ned asked. Different. It was the truth. Maester Luwin says seizures can change a man. Affect the mind. You need rest. I need to speak with you. Jon's voice had an edge to it. A command, not a request. Ned's eyebrows rose. About what? The wall. The Night's Watch. What lies beyond? Ned crossed his arms. This can wait until morning. No, my lord, it cannot. Jon met Ned's gaze without flinching. Do you believe in the others? The question hung in the air. Ned's expression hardened. Old Nan's stories are just that. Stories to frighten children. No. Jon's voice was flat, certain. Not stories. History. Your ancestors built that wall for a reason, Lord Stark. What reason? The seizure, the burned-away illusions. Jon took a step forward. I see clearly now. Clearer than I ever have. The wall was built to hold back the darkness, the others, the dead that walk. They're not legends. They're real. And they're coming. Ned's face was stone. How could you possibly know this? Because I remember. The words came before Jon could stop them. I remember things. Old things. Things from before I was born, as if I've lived before. That's impossible, is it? Jon's eyes burned. You believed in the children of the forest once. You believed in giants, in direwolves. He gestured to Ghost, who watched from the corner. Why not this? Why not destiny? Ned said nothing for a long moment. Then, get some rest. We'll speak in the morning. He left. The door closed. Jon stood alone in his chamber. He walked to the window and looked out at Winterfell. The castle spread below him, ancient and strong. Built by Brandon the Builder, the same man who'd built the wall, the same family that had ruled the North for thousands of years. The Starks remembered. Their words said so. Winter is coming. They'd forgotten what they were supposed to remember, but Jon would make them remember. He was a king, he'd died a king, but he'd woken as a bastard. Very well. If he had to climb from bastard to king again, he would. He'd conquered this kingdom once before. He'd do it again, and this time, he'd save it from the long night. The next morning, Winterfell bustled with activity. King Robert's retinue filled the castle to bursting. Servants rushed through corridors. Knights drank in the yard. Horses stamped in the stables. Preparations were underway for the royal hunt. Jon walked through it all with new eyes. He examined the walls, studied their construction. Brandon the Builder had known what was coming. The architecture showed it. The castle was designed not just for defense against men, but against something else. Something from the north. He visited the hot springs beneath the castle, felt the warmth rising from deep below. It reminded him of Dragonstone, of volcanic heat and dragon eggs. The similarity was not coincidental. In the training yard, he watched Ser Roderick Cassel drilling young men in swordwork. The master-at-arms noticed him, waved him over. Feeling better, lad? Roderick asked. Much better, sir. Good. Grab a practice sword, let's see if that fever knocked the training out of you. Jon took the sword, felt its weight. Too light, too crude. He'd held better weapons. Valyrian steel, blades forged in dragonfire. But this would do. They circled. Roderick came at him with a basic combination. Jon blocked, countered, not with the wild swings of a boy, but with the disciplined precision of a man who'd trained warriors for 37 years. Roderick's eyes widened. "Where did you learn that?" "I've always known it, sir. I just forgot. And now I remember." Roderick couldn't touch him. Jon moved like water, economical and efficient, never wasting motion, always 2 steps ahead. Finally, Roderick lowered his sword. "You've changed since the fever, boy. Fever has a way of burning away illusions, sir. I see clearly now. See that you don't forget yourself. A bastard needs to know his place." "I know my place." Jon handed back the practice sword. "Better than anyone." He walked away. Roderick stared after him. Jon found the library, a small room poorly lit filled with old books and dusty scrolls. He pulled down a volume, The Conquest of Aegon, written by Archmaester Gildane 200 years after the fact, filled with errors and omissions, but useful nonetheless. He was reading when the door opened. Catelyn Stark stood in the doorway. Ice in human form, she'd hated Jon for 15 years, hated the reminder of Ned's supposed infidelity, hated the threat he posed to her children's inheritance. "You shouldn't be in here," she said coldly. "These books are for the Lord's children." Jon didn't look up from the page. "I am the blood of Winterfell, Lady Stark. Or have you forgotten? You are a bastard, my husband's shame made flesh." Jon finally looked up. His eyes were cold, ancient. The weight of 3 centuries stared out from a boy's face. "I have been called many things," he said quietly. "Bastard is new. But Lady Stark, let me tell you what I am not. I am not a boy who will cower before a lord's wife. I am not a mistake to be hidden, and I am not yours to command." The temperature in the room dropped. Jon stood. Though he was smaller than Catelyn, she took a step back. Something in his presence made her instincts scream danger. "You fear I will take what is yours?" Jon moved closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Your husband's love? Your son's inheritance? I have no interest in Winterfell's table scraps, Lady Stark. I have larger concerns." Catelyn couldn't speak. This wasn't Jon Snow. This was something else wearing his face. "But know this." Jon's eyes never left hers. "I will walk where I please in this castle. I will read what I please, and you will not stand in my way. Are we understood?" Catelyn nodded. She didn't mean to. Her body moved without her permission, responding to the authority in his voice. Jon returned to his book as if she'd been dismissed. Catelyn fled. She found Ned in his solar, going over accounts. "Something is wrong with Jon." Ned looked up. "He's recovering from a seizure." "No, it's more than that. He's actually frightened me." Jon wouldn't hurt anyone. "I'm not saying he would. I'm saying he's not the same boy. The way he looked at me. The way he spoke. Ned, it was like being addressed by a king." Ned set down his quill. "I noticed it too. Last night, he spoke differently, more formal. And the questions he asked?" He trailed off. "What questions? About the wall, the others. Things he shouldn't know about. Things no one believes in anymore." Catelyn wrapped her arms around herself. "What's happening to him?" "I don't know, but I intend to find out." The sacred grove was quiet, peaceful. The heart tree watched with its carved face, ancient and knowing. Jon knelt before it, but he wasn't praying. He'd spread out a crude map drawn on parchment. The 7 kingdoms, sketched from memory. Winterfell, the Wall, King's Landing, Dragonstone, the major castles and roads. "Jon," Robb approached carefully. "Mother says you frightened her. I told her the truth. That seems to frighten people. What's gotten into you? You've never spoken to her like that. You've never even looked at her directly." Jon stood, rolling up the map. "I'm tired of being invisible, Robb. Tired of being treated as lesser when I am." He stopped himself. "When I could be so much more. You're my brother. You'll always be my brother." For the first time since waking, genuine warmth crossed Jon's face. "I know, and I would die to protect you. All of you. Sansa, Arya, Bran. Rickon, you're my family." "Then what's changed?" "Everything. Nothing. I can't explain it. But Robb, brotherhood doesn't mean I must live in your shadow. I have things I need to do. Important things." "Like what?" Jon looked north, toward the wall. "Like preparing for what's coming. The winter that was promised. The long night." "You sound like old Nan." Old Nan remembers what everyone else has forgotten. Jon gripped Rob's shoulder. Trust me. Please. I need you to trust me. Saw something there he didn't recognize, but also saw loyalty. Love. I trust you, Jon. I always have. I'll need you to stand with me, even when what I ask seems impossible. What are you planning? Survival. For all of us, that evening, King Robert held a feast. The great hall was packed again. Lords and ladies in their finest, musicians playing, wine flowing like water. Jon sat at his usual place at the back, but this time he wasn't watching the festivities. He was watching the people. Robert laughed too loud, drank too much, told stories of battles long past. Beside him, Cersei Lannister smiled with her mouth but not her eyes, golden and beautiful and cold as winter. Their children sat nearby, Joffrey, blonde and cruel, tormenting his younger brother Tommen, Myrcella, sweet and pretty, oblivious to the darkness around her. Jon's eyes narrowed. He'd seen this before. Dealt with weak heirs, cruel princes who would make terrible kings. Joffrey had the look of one who'd never been told no in his life. Further down the table sat Tyrion Lannister, the imp, the dwarf son of Tywin Lannister, drinking wine and watching the crowd with intelligent eyes. Underestimated, isolated, clever, potentially useful, and standing against the wall the Kingsguard in white cloaks. Sir Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, golden-haired and handsome and false. Sir Barristan Selmy, old but still formidable, honorable to a fault. Jon catalogued them all. Allies, enemies, tools, obstacles. Then Robert stood, swaying, cup in hand. "A toast," he bellowed, "to the Targaryen whore across the narrow sea. May she die screaming." The hall erupted in laughter and cheers. Men pounded tables. Women smiled behind their hands. Jon's knuckles turned white around his cup. Daenerys, his blood, his descendant, the last of his line. They would kill her, kill the dragons before they were born, kill the weapon humanity needed to survive the long night, unless he stopped them. But to stop them, he needed power, needed to be more than a bastard in the north, needed to be in King's Landing, close to the throne, close to the people who made decisions. He needed leverage, and then he remembered. In the original timeline, in the life that Jon Snow had lived before Aegon woke, there had been an incident, Bran climbing, falling, or rather, being pushed by Jaime Lannister, because Bran had seen something he shouldn't have seen. Jon's eyes found Jaime across the hall, then found Cersei. They sat at opposite ends of the high table, but their eyes met frequently. Too frequently. Too familiar. The rumors were true then. The Kingslayer and the Queen. Brother and sister. Joffrey, Tommen, Myrcella, all bastards born of incest. Robert's children only in name. Jon set down his cup, stood. Ghost rose with him. "Where are you going?" a servant asked. "For air. The hall is too warm." He walked out into the night. Winterfell was dark, quiet. Most of the castle was at the feast. Guards walked the walls, but they knew Jon, paid him no mind. Jon made his way to the broken tower, an old structure partially collapsed, unused except for storage. He'd climbed it before. Jon Snow had climbed it. The boy's memories were there, accessible, useful. He began to climb. The stone was old, weathered, but strong enough. He moved up the exterior wall with practiced ease. Higher, higher, until he reached a window near the top. Voices drifted from inside. A man, a woman, familiar voices. Jon positioned himself on a ledge below the window, waited, listening. "He suspects nothing," Cersei's voice, sharp, bitter. "He's too drunk to see what's in front of his face. You're taking a risk coming here. Jaime, worried. I needed to see you, away from prying eyes, away from him." A pause, then sounds that made their relationship unmistakable. Jon heard footsteps, small footsteps. A child climbing the outside of the tower, curious about voices in an abandoned room. Bran. Jon moved, silently. Swiftly, he climbed around the tower's curve, positioning himself below where Bran would be. The boy appeared, small hands gripping stone, feet finding purchase. He pulled himself up to the window ledge, looked inside, gasped. Jaime's head snapped toward the window. The boy. But Jon was already there. His hand shot out, grabbed Bran's ankle. "I've got you, don't look. Just climb down." Bran's face was pale with shock, but he obeyed, started climbing down. Jon guided him, moving with him, keeping between the boy and the window. Jaime appeared at the window, sword half drawn. Shock crossed his face when he saw Jon. "You. How did you—" "I could ask you the same, Sir Jaime," Jon said calmly, "but I believe I already know the answer." Cersei appeared beside her brother, face white. "Kill him, Jaime." "Both of us?" "Here." Jon tilted his head. "That would be difficult to explain. Two bodies, a Stark and a Snow, questions would be asked." "We can't let them talk," Cersei hissed. Jon guided Bran down another few feet, then called up. "Bran, run to your father. Tell him I need to speak with him. Go." Now, Jon climbed back up, came level with the window, looked at Jaime and Cersei with eyes 300 years old. "You saw nothing," Jaime said, hand on his sword. "I saw everything. The Queen and the Kingslayer. How poetic. Tell me, does Robert know his children aren't his?" Jaime's blade came out. "You'll keep your mouth shut, boy, or what? You'll kill me." Jon smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "That would be a mistake, Sir Jaime, because I'm the only one who can save you." "Save us?" Cersei laughed. "You're a bastard. You're nothing. I'm the difference between you dying as traitors or living as nobles. Choose wisely." Jaime's blade didn't lower, but he didn't attack. "What do you want?" "Simple. I want to go south. I want to be brought to King's Landing when Lord Stark becomes Hand. You will ensure this happens. You will convince someone, anyone, that I should be included in the retinue. Why would we? You'll be put aside." And Jaime, Jon's eyes locked on the Kingslayer. "You'll be executed for treason and incest. Whereas if you help me, your secret stays secret. I have no interest in exposing you. I simply need passage south." "You're bluffing," Cersei said. "You have no proof." "I have a witness. Bran saw you. I prevented him from talking, this time. But I've already arranged for a letter to be delivered to Lord Stark if anything happens to me. A letter describing what I saw, written in my own hand and sealed. It was a lie, but they didn't know that." Jaime and Cersei exchanged glances. A whole conversation and a look. Finally, Jaime sheathed his sword. "If we do this, how do we know you'll keep your word?" "You don't. But consider, I could go to Ned Stark right now. I could end you this morning, but I'm offering you this deal instead. Why? Because I don't care about your secret. I care about getting to King's Landing. Your sins are irrelevant to me." "Why the capital?" Cersei demanded. "What does a bastard want in—" "But if you betray us, then you'll have nothing left to lose, and you can kill me with my blessing. Until then, Sir Jaime, you are my first knight. Welcome to the game." 3 days later, Tyrion Lannister approached Ned Stark in the library. "Lord Stark." "A moment. I have a proposition. Your brother, my brother rather, mentioned you're going south to serve as Hand of the King. You'll need someone to manage your northern household in the capital. Someone who knows Winterfell's ways. I have servants for that. True. But I've been observing your bastard, Jon Snow. He's remarkably capable, intelligent, disciplined, wasted here in the north. Take him south as your steward. He can manage your household, keep the northern men in line, serve as a liaison between you and your bannermen." Ned frowned. "Jon is to take the Black, join the Night's Watch. A waste of talent. The Watch takes anyone. But a good steward, hard to find. Think on it." That night, Jaime came to him. "Lord Stark, a word about your bastard." "What about him?" "He saved my nephew Bran from falling off the broken tower. The boy was climbing where he shouldn't have been. Jon saw him, climbed up, pulled him back. Bran's alive because of him." This was news to Ned. "Jon did that?" "Yes, quick thinking, brave, the kind of man you want watching your back in King's Landing," Cersei suggested. "And I agree that you should bring him south, as a reward for saving Bran. And because, well, a bastard in the capital is easier to keep track of than a bastard at the Wall." Ned studied Jaime. Something felt off about this. Too convenient, but Bran confirmed the story when asked. Jon had saved him from falling. 2 days later, Ned called Jon to his solar. "You saved Bran." "I did." Jon's face remained neutral. "And will you?" "I'm considering it." "Jon, what happened in that tower? What was Bran doing there?" "He's always climbing. I saw him, followed him, caught him before he fell." "And that's all?" "That's all that matters." Ned studied his bastard son. the boy who'd changed so much in the past week. Very well. You'll come south. But Jon, in King's Landing you must be careful. The capital is not like Winterfell. It's dangerous. I know, Father. I'll be careful. That night, Jon stood in the courtyard, bags packed. Ghost sat beside him. The dire wolf had grown larger in the past week, white fur gleaming in the torchlight. Robb approached. You're really going? Yes. Why? You hate the South. Jon Snow hated the South. But I'm not entirely Jon Snow anymore. What does that mean? Jon looked at his brother, at the boy who would be king in the North, who would fight and die for his family, who deserved better than the fate that awaited him. It means I'm going to save our family, Robb. All of you. I'm going to prepare the realm for what's coming. And when winter comes, when the dead rise, when everything falls apart, I'll make sure the Starks survive. You sound insane. Jon smiled. For the first time in days, it was a genuine smile. Perhaps I am, but I'm your brother, and I love you. Remember that. They embraced. Then Jon mounted his horse. Ghost leaped up beside him. The column formed. Ned, Sansa, Arya, the household guard, and Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell, who was something else entirely. They rode south through Winterfell's gates. Jon looked back once, at the castle, at Robb standing in the courtyard, at the north. I was a king, he whispered to himself. I died a king, but I wake a bastard. Very well, if I must climb from bastard to king once more, then so be it. I've conquered this kingdom before. I'll do it again. The pieces are falling into place. The usurper's throne awaits, and this time I won't need dragons. I have something better. I have knowledge. I have time, and I have nothing to lose. Ghost howled. The sound echoed across Winterfell, primal and ancient. And Jon Snow, who was Aegon the Conqueror, rode south to reclaim his throne. The king's road stretched before them like a gray scar through autumn forests. The royal procession moved slowly. The king's wheelhouse set the pace, lumbering and ornate, carrying Queen Cersei and her children in cushioned comfort. Behind it came wagons loaded with supplies, tents, furniture. The entire court transported south. Jon rode near the back, with the Stark household guard, not family, not noble, not quite a servant, isolated, apart, exactly where he wanted to be. From his position, he could observe everything. The way Cersei's wheelhouse kept pace with Jaime's position in the column. The way Joffrey tormented his younger siblings during rest stops. The way Robert drank from dawn until dusk, growing louder and cruder with each passing mile. Jon catalogued it all. Every weakness, every alliance, every fracture in the facade. Ghost ranged ahead, white fur visible in the trees. The direwolf had grown larger still, nearly the size of a pony. Common wolves fled at his approach. Even horses grew nervous when he passed. On the third day, a rider approached from behind, a distinctive figure, even at a distance. Tyrion Lannister, mounted on a specially made saddle that accommodated his short legs. Jon Snow, Tyrion called, pulling his horse alongside. Mind if I ride with you? The royal retinue is insufferably boring, and you look like a man who appreciates silence. Silence is a rare gift on a journey like this, Jon said. Indeed, though I confess I'm curious. A bastard traveling south with the hand of the king. Usually, bastards get sent to the wall, not the capital. My father made an exception, so I heard you saved young Bran from a fall. Quick thinking. Tyrion studied Jon with sharp eyes. You know, I've made a study of bastards. Society's rejected children, forced to be twice as clever to achieve half as much. Let me give you some advice, bastard. You're going to tell me to wear my bastard status like armor so it can't be used to hurt me. Jon interrupted. Tyrion blinked. You've heard that before? No, but I know how clever men think. They take weakness and reframe it as strength. It's a good strategy when you have no other option. A slow smile spread across Tyrion's face. And you have other options? We all have choices, Lord Tyrion. Some of us just see further ahead than others. Further ahead? You speak like a man who's lived twice as long as his years. Perhaps I have. Then Tyrion asked, What do you make of our king? Jon considered his answer carefully. He's a warrior who won a crown, but winning a throne and holding it are very different skills. Spoken like someone who's thought about it. Ambitions, Snow? Realism, Lannister. Every kingdom needs a king. Better a competent one than a drunk one. Tyrion laughed, but the sound held no real mirth. Careful, that kind of talk could be called treason. Is it treason to state the obvious? In King's Landing? Often, yes. Tyrion took a long drink from his wineskin. You're an interesting one, Jon Snow. Most bastards are either broken by their status or raging against it. But you seem neither broken nor angry. You seem patient. Like a man waiting for something. Maybe I am. Waiting for what? The right moment. Over the following days, Tyrion sought Jon out regularly. They talked about power, legacy, the nature of rule, conversations that went deeper than small talk, circling around ideas that most men didn't consider. "Do you believe Robert is a good king?" Tyrion asked one evening around the campfire. "He united 7 kingdoms through conquest," Jon said. "But he rules through delegation, lets his hand manage the realm while he hunts and drinks. That works, until it doesn't. And what happens when it doesn't? The realm fractures. Lords pursue their own interests. The peace breaks. War comes. Jon poked the fire with a stick. A king must be present, visible. He must make his vassals believe he's watching, even when he's not. You speak like you've ruled before. I've observed rulers, the good ones and the bad ones. The patterns are consistent." Tyrion leaned back, studying Jon through narrowed eyes. "You're either the cleverest bastard I've ever met, or the strangest. I haven't decided which. Does it matter? To me, no. I enjoy clever conversation regardless of its source. But to others," Tyrion gestured toward the royal pavilion where Robert's laughter boomed. "Cleverness in a bastard makes people nervous. They prefer their bastards meek and grateful. Then they'll be disappointed." On the 7th day, bandits struck. The column had stopped for the night. Tents were being raised, fires lit, guards posted. But the forest was thick here, the undergrowth dense. They came from the trees. A dozen men, poorly armed but desperate, they targeted the supply wagons, hoping for easy plunder. The Hound was closest. Sandor Clegane drew his sword, moving toward the threat. But Jon was faster. He dismounted in one fluid motion, drew his blade, and moved, not with the wild swings of a northern boy, but with the disciplined precision of a warrior who'd commanded armies. Economy of motion. The lead bandit came at him with a rusty sword. Jon sidestepped, parried, and disarmed him in 3 moves. The sword went flying. Jon's blade came to rest at the man's throat. "Walk away," Jon said quietly. "Now." The bandit's eyes widened. He saw something in Jon's gaze that terrified him. Not anger, not rage, just cold certainty. The eyes of a man who'd killed before and would kill again without hesitation. "Walk away," Jon repeated. The bandits ran. The Hound approached, sword still drawn. Where'd a bastard learn to fight like that? Survival, says. Sandor studied him. You're not like other high-born bastards. Most of them try to fight like knights. All honor and chivalry. You fight like a killer. I fight to win. There's a difference. Aye, there is. The Hound sheathed his sword. Remember that when we reach King's Landing. The capital's full of killers who smile and bow. You'll fit right in. Did you see the way he moved? Like a master at arms, not a boy. And his eyes, cold as ice. He's different since that fever. Changed. Even Ned noticed. He approached Jon at the edge of camp, where Ghost lay beside his rider. "Jon, I need to ask you something." "Yes, father. What happened during your seizure? What really happened?" Jon looked at Ned, at the honorable man who'd raised him, who'd protected Lyanna's secret for 15 years, who'd lied to his king, his wife, everyone, to keep Jon safe. "I remembered things, father. Old things, as if I'd lived before." Ned's face went pale. "That's impossible, is it? You believed in the children of the forest once? You believed in giants. Why not reincarnation? Why not destiny? This is madness. Is it, or is it the gods showing mercy, giving the realm what it needs when it needs it most?" Jon stood. "Father, I know you don't understand. I barely understand it myself, but I remember things I shouldn't know. I can do things I shouldn't be able to do, and I know what's coming from the north. The others, the long night, they're real, and the realm isn't ready." Ned was silent for a long moment. "Even if what you're saying is true, even if somehow you've been given knowledge or abilities beyond your years, what do you intend to do with them? And to do that, I need to be in King's Landing. I need to be close to power. You're talking about dangerous things, Jon. I'm talking about necessary things. The difference matters." Ned walked away, but Jon saw him looking back, uncertainty written on his face. On the 15th day they crested a hill, and there, in the distance, was King's Landing. The greatest city in Westeros sprawled along the coast of Blackwater Bay. 500,000 people crammed inside massive walls. The Red Keep rose on Aegon's high hill, red stone towers gleaming in the afternoon sun. Jon stared at the castle he built 3 centuries ago. The memories came flooding back. Not Jon Snow's memories, Aegon's, standing on that same hill when it was empty, directing builders, watching the stones rise, the throne room taking shape, the secret passages being constructed exactly as he'd specified. His castle, his city, his kingdom. And now a usurper sat on his throne. Jon's hands tightened on the reins. Ghost sensed his mood, growled low. "Easy," Jon whispered. "Patience. We'll take it back, but not with fire and blood this time. With patience. With cunning." Small folk lined the roads, cheering for their king. Children threw flowers. Merchants hawked their wares. Beggars cried for alms. Jon took in every detail. The buildings had changed, newer construction everywhere, but the underlying structure remained. The street plan he'd designed, the market squares he'd designated, the main thoroughfares. His city, still his. The Red Keep's gates opened. The column passed through into the courtyard. Servants rushed forward. Horses were led away. Baggage unloaded. Jon dismounted, stood in the courtyard where he'd once greeted vassals and foreign ambassadors, where he'd held court, where he'd ruled. Flashes of memory superimposed over reality. Builders hauling stone. His sisters, Visenya and Rhaenys, standing beside him planning the castle's defenses. The first time he'd walked into the completed throne room, seeing the iron throne forged from his enemy's swords, Jon Snow, a servant, approached. "Lord Stark's quarters are in the Tower of the Hand. You'll be housed nearby. This way." He knew it better than anyone alive. That night, after the Stark household had settled, Jon slipped away. He moved through the servants' passages, the hidden corridors that ran through the Red Keep's walls. He'd designed them himself. Listening posts where kings could hear what their courtiers said in private, escape routes in case of siege, secret ways to move through the castle unseen. He navigated them as if he'd walked them yesterday. In the throne room corridor he found a spy hole, pressed his eye to it. The room beyond was empty, dark. But the Iron Throne sat there massive and cruel, forged from the swords of his enemies. 1,000 blades, taken from those who'd knelt or burned, he'd made that throne, personally supervised its construction, sat it for 37 years, and now Robert Baratheon's fat ass warmed his seat. Jon's jaw clenched. "Not for long," he whispered. Footsteps in the passage behind him. Jon turned. A man emerged from the shadows, bald, soft-faced, dressed in rich robes. He moved silently for such a large man. Varys, the spider, master of whisperers. My, Varys said softly. A wolf pup who knows how to navigate the dragon's lair. How curious. Jon didn't appear surprised. "These passages were built for a purpose, Lord Varys. I'm simply using them as intended." Built by whom, I wonder? The passages are old. Aegon's time, perhaps? Perhaps the builders left instructions, hidden knowledge passed down. Are you claiming to have found such instructions, boy? I'm claiming nothing, but I know this castle better than you think. Then we shall be watching each other, won't we? I expect nothing less. They parted. Varys disappeared into the darkness. Jon continued his exploration. He found more passages, more spy holes, listened to conversations throughout the castle. In one chamber, Littlefinger and Varys spoke quietly. "Ned Stark is too honorable for this city," Littlefinger said. "He'll be dead within the year." "Perhaps. But he serves the realm by serving the king. The king is a drunk. The realm deserves better. And who would you suggest, Lord Baelish?" Jon committed it to memory. Littlefinger was already scheming. The pieces were moving in another chamber. Cersei complained to a servant. 15 years of this. 15 years of his drunken pawing, his bastards everywhere, his disrespect. I'm a Lannister. I deserve better than this. More confirmation Cersei hated Robert, would see him dead if she could. Jon continued through the passages until he found a chamber that looked familiar. He pushed on a hidden panel. It swung open. The room beyond was dusty, unused, but Jon recognized it, a private study he'd used when he needed to think, to plan, to be alone with the weight of ruling. No one had discovered it in 300 years. Jon smiled. The next morning, Ned attended his first small council meeting. Jon was supposedly waiting in the Tower of the Hand's quarters, but he found a passage that led directly to the small council chamber. He positioned himself at a listening post, ear to the wall. He heard voices: Robert, Ned, the council members, Grand Maester Pycelle, ancient and wheezing, Renly Baratheon, Robert's youngest brother, handsome and vain, Littlefinger, master of coin, his voice smooth as oil, Varys, master of whisperers, speaking in soft tones. "Your Grace," Varys said, "I have troubling news from across the narrow sea. Daenerys Targaryen has married Khal Drogo, a Dothraki warlord with 40,000 riders." Robert's fist slammed on the table. "Kill her. Send assassins. Kill them all. I want every Targaryen dead." "Your Grace," Ned's voice calm but firm. "She's just a girl. She's done nothing wrong. She's a Targaryen. That's wrong enough." Jon's hands clenched. Daenerys, his blood, his descendant, the last hope for dragons. They would kill her before she could hatch dragons, before she could become the weapon humanity needed against the Night King. Unless Jon stopped them. But he had no power. Not yet. He needed to become valuable, indispensable, needed to prove himself useful to the people who made decisions. And for that, he needed leverage. That afternoon, Jon sought out Petyr Baelish. He found him in a quiet courtyard reading correspondence. Littlefinger looked up, surprised. "Ned Stark's bastard, how delightfully Nedish of him to bring you south. Tell me, what does a young man like you want? To not waste my time with false friends and veiled threats. State your purpose, Lord Baelish." Littlefinger laughed. "Direct. I like it. Very well, I'm always interested in knowing who the new players are. And you, Jon Snow, are remarkably informed for a bastard from the north. Perhaps you're simply not as informed as you think. This city has secrets, Lord Baelish. Secrets that predate your schemes. Oh? Do enlighten me. The man who holds a secret has power. The man who knows he doesn't know all secrets has wisdom. Which are you?" Littlefinger's smile froze. For just a moment, uncertainty crossed his face. Then it was gone, replaced by the usual mask. "We'll speak again, Jon Snow. I suspect you and I have much to discuss." He left. Jon watched him go, satisfied. Plant the seed of doubt, make Littlefinger uncertain. A man who thinks he knows everything is dangerous. A man who doubts his knowledge makes mistakes. That evening, Jon requested a private audience with Ned. They met in Ned's solar in the Tower of the Hand. Ned looked tired. The burden of being Hand was already weighing on him. "What is it, Jon?" "I need to travel to Dragonstone, or I need access to Winterfell's deepest crypts." Ned stared at him. "Why would you possibly? The long night?" Ned's expression hardened. "Jon, this obsession with the others, it's not an obsession. It's knowledge. You don't believe in them, but you should. And I can prove they're real. I can prove why the wall was built, but I need something first." "What? How could you know this? Because I've seen it before. Or, I will have seen it. Time is strange, Lord Stark. The gods work in mysterious ways." Ned stood, paced. "This is madness. It's truth. And Father, I need you to trust me, just this once. Help me retrieve the dagger. Let me show you what's inscribed on it. And then you can decide if I'm mad or if I'm the only sane person in this castle." Ned studied his bastard son, the boy who'd changed so much, who spoke with authority beyond his years, who knew things he shouldn't know. Finally, "Where is this dagger? Petyr Baelish has it? In his possession? But I can acquire it." "How?" "He collects people like some men collect coins. He'll want me in his debt." "And then?" "Then I take the dagger, heat the blade, show you what's written there, and prove that I'm not mad." Ned was quiet for a long moment. "Very well. But Jon, if this is some delusion..." "It's not. I promise you, this is real." Over the next 3 days, Jon cultivated Littlefinger's interest. He asked questions about the city, about trade, about power, made himself seem ambitious but naive, a clever bastard who might be molded into a useful tool. And Littlefinger, as expected, took the bait. "You're curious about how things work," Littlefinger said during one conversation. "That's good. Curiosity is the first step toward understanding, and understanding is power. I want to understand. Then let me show you something." Littlefinger brought him to a private chamber, unlocked a chest. Inside were various items, coins, documents, and a dagger. Valyrian steel. The blade was distinctive, rippled, and dark. The handle was bone and dragon glass. "This is a rare piece," Littlefinger said. "Valyrian steel. Priceless. I acquired it from... Well, that's not important. The point is, true power isn't in swords. It's in knowledge, in knowing what others don't." Jon looked at the dagger. Recognition flooded through him. He'd held that blade before. 300 years ago, he'd inscribed it himself. "May I?" Jon reached for it. Littlefinger hesitated, then nodded. "Careful, it's sharp." Jon picked up the dagger. The weight was familiar, perfect. He turned it over in his hands, examining every detail. "It's beautiful," Jon said, "but it seems like just a blade. What makes it special? Valyrian steel is always special. It holds an edge forever. Never dulls, never breaks. Nothing else? No hidden properties?" Littlefinger frowned. "What do you mean?" "Just curious. I've heard stories about Valyrian steel. Magical properties. Secrets hidden in the metal. Maester's tales. The steel is remarkable, but it's just steel." Jon handed it back. "Thank you for showing me." He left, but now he knew where the dagger was, and he had a plan. That night, he returned to Littlefinger's chamber. The locks were simple. Jon had broken more complex mechanisms in his previous life. He retrieved the dagger, took it to his own chambers, built a fire in the hearth, made it hot, very hot. Then he placed the blade in the flames. Valyrian steel didn't melt. It had been forged in dragon fire, temperatures far hotter than any normal flame. But heat could reveal things hidden in the metal. Jon waited. The blade glowed, red, orange, yellow. And then, in the metal itself, letters appeared, Valyrian glyphs flowing and ancient. "From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire." The prophecy inscribed by his own hand 3 centuries ago. Jon stared at the words, his warning to future generations. He wrapped the blade in cloth, went to find Ned. Ned was in his solar reading reports. He looked up when Jon entered. "Father, I have something to show you." Jon unwrapped the dagger, placed it on the desk. "Heat it," Jon said. "What? Heat the blade? Over your candle? Hot enough to make the metal glow?" Ned frowned but obeyed. He held the dagger over the candle flame. The blade heated slowly, began to glow. And the letters appeared. Ned's eyes widened. He read the Valyrian script. This is the prophecy Rhaegar spoke of. The one that drove him mad. It drove him to prepare. And he failed. "But I won't." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I know things I shouldn't know. I've lived a life I shouldn't have lived. And I'm here for a reason." "You think you're what? A reincarnation? A chosen one?" "I think I'm a weapon forged by the gods to save the realm from the darkness that's coming. And I need your help." Ned set down the dagger, stared at Jon. "Even if what you're saying is true, even if you somehow carry knowledge from the past, what do you want me to do?" "Help me get to Dragonstone. Robert has no interest in the island. It's abandoned except for a small garrison. Let me travel there. Let me search for what I know is hidden." "What's hidden there?" "Proof, weapons, things left by Aegon the Conqueror for the day when the long night would return." "This is insanity." "It's preparation, and Father, I need you to trust me. I've never asked you for anything, but I'm asking now. Let me do this." "But Jon, if you're wrong..." "I'm not wrong, I promise you." 2 days later, Ned arranged it. Robert didn't care about Dragonstone. The ancestral seat of House Targaryen held no interest for him. Let the Stark bastard go. It was harmless enough. Jon sailed from King's Landing on a small ship. 3 days at sea. Then the island appeared. Dragonstone. Volcanic. Dark. Ancient. The castle was carved from stone, shaped like dragons in flight. Gargoyles and worms decorated every surface. Jon walked through the gates. Memories crashed over him like waves. His home, for years before the conquest, where he'd planned his invasion, where he'd lived with his sisters. Every stone was familiar. Every hall, every chamber. He made his way to the painted table chamber, the great map of Westeros, carved in wood and painted, showing every castle, every town, every road. He'd commissioned it himself, used it to plan the conquest. Jon approached the table, ran his hands along its edge, found the hidden catch, pressed. A panel in the floor beneath the table swung open. Inside a chamber, small, sealed for 300 years. And there, nestled in straw and cloth, were 3 objects. 3 dragon eggs, petrified, ancient, beautiful. One was deep green with bronze flecks. One was cream and gold. One was black with scarlet ripples. Jon lifted them carefully. They were heavy, cold, but power thrummed within them, dormant, waiting. "I left these for my heir," Jon whispered, "for the prince that was promised. I left them for myself." He also found a journal, written in his own hand, a record of the prophecy, the visions he'd seen, the preparations he'd made, proof of who he'd been, who he was. Jon took the eggs and the journal, sealed the chamber again, left Dragonstone the same way he'd come. When he returned to King's Landing, Ned was waiting. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Jon unwrapped one of the eggs, showed it to Ned. Ned's breath caught. Dragon eggs, real dragon eggs, left for the day when they would be needed again. "How did you know they were there?" "Because I put them there. 300 years ago, I am Aegon Targaryen, father. Reborn in this body, given a second life to complete the work I started, to save the realm from the darkness that's coming." Ned sat down heavily, stared at the egg, at Jon. I don't. I know it's difficult to believe, but the proof is in your hands. The dagger, the eggs, the journal I found with them, written in Aegon's own hand, describing the prophecy in detail. It's all real. Even if I believe you, even if you are somehow connected to Aegon Targaryen, what does this mean? It means the realm needs a king who knows what's coming. Robert Baratheon is the wrong man on the throne. He's a warrior, yes, but he doesn't know about the others, doesn't believe, doesn't care about anything beyond his own comfort. You're talking about treason. I'm talking about survival. The White Walkers are coming, Ned. The others, the Night King. And when they do, we need dragons. We need unity. We need a Targaryen on the Iron Throne. You're not a Targaryen. You're my son, Lyanna's son. Jon looked at him steadily. Am I? You know the truth, Ned. You've always known. And now you know why that truth matters. Struggled with it. Finally, what do you need from me? Time, support, and when the moment comes, your voice. Because Robert won't live forever, and when he dies, someone must take the throne. Someone who can unite the realm against what's coming. And you think that's you? I know it is, because I've done it before. Ned looked at the dragon egg, at the impossible thing in his hands, at the bastard who wasn't a bastard, who might be a king reborn. What's your plan? Jon smiled. First, we remove the vipers from the nest. Littlefinger, Cersei, the people who would tear the realm apart for personal gain. Then we prepare. Dragonglass, weapons, armies, and when the time is right, when Robert is gone and the realm needs a leader, I'll take the throne. Not through conquest this time, through necessity. And the eggs? They stay hidden, for now, but when Daenerys Targaryen hatches her dragons across the sea, we'll know the time is coming, and we'll be ready. Ned was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Once, firm. I'll help you. God's help me, I'll help you. But Jon, if you're wrong, I'm not wrong. I promise you that. They stood together in the Tower of the Hand, the bastard and the lord, the reborn king and the honorable man, united in purpose. Outside, King's Landing sprawled in the darkness. 500,000 souls, unaware of the storm gathering in the north, unaware that Aegon the Conqueror had returned. Jon looked out the window, at his city, his kingdom. I have the proof, he whispered. I have the weapons, and I have an ally. Now I just need the throne, and to get the throne, I need Robert Baratheon gone. Not murdered, that would make a martyr, but deposed, discredited, broken. And I know exactly how to do it. The royal hunt was scheduled for 3 days hence. Robert Baratheon would ride into the Kingswood with his lords and knights, chasing boar and deer, drinking himself into a stupor as he always did. Jon knew what would happen. In the original timeline, Robert would be gored by a boar. Lancel Lannister, Cersei's cousin and pawn, would keep the king's wineskin full of strong wine. Robert would be too drunk to dodge. The boar would kill him, and Joffrey would take the throne. Jon couldn't allow that, not yet. He needed Robert alive long enough to expose the Lannisters, long enough to destabilize their power. The king had to die, yes, but on Jon's terms, not Cersei's. The night before the hunt, Jon moved through the Red Keep's passages, found Lancel's chambers. The young man was alone, preparing his things for the morning ride. Jon slipped in through a hidden door. Lancel spun, hand going to his sword. Who? Jon Snow. I need to speak with you. The bastard, what are you doing in my chambers? Saving your life. And the king's. Jon approached calmly. Tomorrow on the hunt, you're supposed to keep the king's wineskin full. Strong wine, your cousin Cersei's orders. Lancel's face went pale. I don't know what you... I know about you and Cersei. I know what she's asked you to do. Get the king drunk. So drunk he can't defend himself. So the boar kills him. You're insane. Am I? Or am I the only one who sees the trap you're walking into? Jon moved closer. When Robert dies, do you think Cersei will protect you? You're a witness. A loose end, she'll have you killed within a week. Lancel's hand trembled. She wouldn't. She murdered her husband. You think she'll hesitate to murder you? Jon's voice was quiet, certain. But I'm offering you a choice. Tomorrow, you fill the king's wineskin with watered wine, weak enough that he stays sober. He survives the hunt, and you survive Cersei's inevitable purge. Why would you help me? Because I need Robert alive, for now. And because you're young and stupid, not evil. You can still choose to do the right thing. And if I refuse, then I go to the king tonight, tell him everything. Your affair with his wife, her plan to kill him. You'll be executed by dawn. You have no proof. I don't need proof. I just need Robert's paranoia. He already suspects Cersei hates him. One word from me and he'll believe it. Jon's eyes were cold. Choose, Lancel. Life or death? Loyalty to Cersei or survival? Lancel's shoulders slumped. What do you want me to do? Water the wine. Keep Robert sober enough to fight. And when this is over, when Cersei falls, you testify against her. Tell the truth about her plans. In exchange, I'll ensure you're spared. You're just a bastard, you can't promise that. I can promise more than you know. Do we have an agreement? Lancel nodded slowly. Yes. The next morning, the royal hunt departed. Robert rode at the head, laughing and shouting, surrounded by lords and knights. Lancel rode near him, carrying the wineskin. Jon stayed behind in King's Landing. He had other work to do. He found Tyrion in the Tower of the Hand's library, reading accounts. Lord Tyrion, I need your help with something. This should be interesting. I need you to audit the crown's finances, every expenditure for the past 10 years. Why? And I want to know who and how much. Tyrion's eyes narrowed. What makes you think someone's stealing? The crown is 15 million gold dragons in debt. Robert spends lavishly, yes, but not that lavishly. Someone's embezzling, skimming, using the crown's money for personal gain. And you think you know who? I have suspicions. But I need proof. You're master of coin now. You have access to the records. Find the proof. Tyrion studied Jon for a long moment. You're playing a dangerous game, Snow. The only game that matters. Will you help? I'll look into it, but if I find what you're suggesting, it'll cause chaos. Good. Chaos is a ladder, and I intend to climb. Tyrion smiled. You've been talking to Littlefinger. No, I've been observing him. There's a difference. Alive. Wounded, the boar had gored his arm, but alive. Cersei's face when she saw him was a mask of fury barely concealed. She'd expected a corpse. Instead, her husband limped into the Red Keep, bandaged but breathing. Jon watched from the shadows. The first piece had moved. Robert would live, for now. That evening, Tyrion came to Jon's chambers. You were right. Littlefinger's been embezzling for years. He's hidden it well, but the patterns are there. False expenditures, inflated costs, money disappearing into accounts he controls. How much? At least 3 million dragons, probably more. Can you prove it? I can prove enough to convict him. If the king cares to listen, he will, especially if we present it correctly. 2 days later, Jon approached Ned in his solar. Father, I have evidence of treason. Patyr Baelish has been stealing from the crown. Ned looked up from his papers. Littlefinger, are you certain? Baelish has embezzled millions. Why are you bringing this to me? Because Littlefinger is dangerous. He's been playing both sides. Lannisters against Starks, Robert against Cersei. He profits from chaos. But if we remove him now, we remove one of the realm's greatest destabilizers. Ned considered. If what you say is true, this is serious. I'll need to present it to the king. In front of the small council, don't give Littlefinger time to prepare a defense. The next morning, Ned called an emergency small council meeting. Robert attended, still irritable from his injury. The council members assembled: Varys, Renly, Pycelle, Tyrion, and Littlefinger. Lord Baelish, Ned said formally, Lord Tyrion has completed an audit of the crown's finances. There are irregularities. Littlefinger's smile didn't waver. Irregularities? I'm shocked. What kind? Tyrion stood. The kind where 3 million gold dragons have disappeared into accounts you control. False expenditures. Inflated contracts. You've been stealing from the crown for years. These are lies. Littlefinger's smile finally cracked. Who would accuse me of? Because I've watched you, Lord Baelish. Watched you sow chaos. Watched you manipulate. And I've learned something. Chaos is only a ladder when you're climbing. But when you reach the top, there's nowhere left to go but down. Robert's face turned red. You stole from me? Your Grace, I can explain. 3 million dragons. Robert stood, knocking over his chair. I trusted you. I made you master of coin. The records are here, Your Grace, Tyrion said, presenting a stack of documents. Every false expenditure, every inflated contract, the proof is undeniable. Littlefinger looked around the room, saw no allies. Varys watched impassively. Renly looked shocked. Pycelle wheezed in confusion. Your Grace, Littlefinger tried one more time. These are misunderstandings, accounting errors. You're a thief, Robert said flatly. And thieves hang. Your Grace, please, Ser Barristan, take him to the dungeons. He'll be executed at dawn. The Kingsguard moved. Littlefinger struggled, but resistance was useless. They dragged him away. When the room cleared, Robert turned to Jon. You, Stark's bastard, you brought this to Ned? I did, Your Grace. Why? Because thieves make kingdoms weak, and the realm needs to be strong for what's coming. Robert studied him. You're a strange one, but you did the realm a service. Ned, your bastards got more sense than half my council. That night, Littlefinger was executed. One viper removed from the nest. But the greater threat remained. Cersei. Jon knew he couldn't expose her the same way. The incest secret was too explosive. If he revealed it publicly without careful preparation, civil war would erupt immediately. He needed leverage, control, and a way to neutralize the Lannisters without destroying the realm. The answer came from an unexpected source. A raven arrived from Casterly Rock. Tywin Lannister was coming to King's Landing. He'd heard about Robert's injury, about the investigation into crown finances. The old lion was coming to protect his interests. Perfect. When Tywin arrived 3 weeks later, Jon requested a private meeting. Tywin Lannister sat in his temporary chambers in the Red Keep, reviewing reports. He looked up when Jon entered, eyes cold and calculating. Ned Stark's bastard, what do you want? Lord Tywin, I have information you'll want to hear. A bastard boy has nothing I want, not even the truth about your grandchildren. That got his attention. Tywin's eyes narrowed. Explain. Your daughter and your son have been lying to you for 13 years. Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella are not Robert Baratheon's children. They're the products of incest between Cersei and Jaime. Tywin's face remained expressionless, but his hands clenched the armrests of his chair. You dare. I dare because it's true, and you know it's true. You've suspected for years. The coloring, the features, none of them look like Baratheons. They're all Lannister. Even if this were true, you have no proof. I have Lancel Lannister's testimony. He'll swear that Cersei ordered him to get Robert drunk on the hunt. To ensure the boar killed him, he'll testify to her plans, and I have witnesses to the incest itself. Tywin stood. You're bluffing. I saved Bran Stark from falling off a tower. He saw Cersei and Jaime together. I witnessed it myself. If I bring this to Robert, if I present the evidence publicly, what happens? Tywin's jaw tightened. Civil war. Exactly. The Lannisters are attainted for treason. Your grandchildren are executed, your daughter and son are killed, and House Lannister is destroyed. Jon stepped forward. But I'm offering you a choice. What choice? Exile, take Cersei and Jaime back to Casterly Rock. Renounce any claim to the throne. Your grandchildren will be declared bastards, removed from the succession, but spared. They'll be sent to the faith, raised as wards, and in exchange this information stays between us. Why would you offer this? because I need the realm stable, not in civil war. The Lannisters are useful, your gold, your armies, your administrative ability, but not here, not in King's Landing, not on the throne. His mind worked through the options. And if I refuse, then I expose everything. Robert executes your children. The realm descends into chaos, and House Lannister falls. Jon's voice was quiet. But if you accept, you keep Casterly Rock. Keep your power in the West. Keep your life and your house survives. You're asking me to sacrifice my grandchildren's futures. I'm asking you to save their lives, because the alternative is death. Then, if I do this, if I take Cersei and Jaime West, what guarantees do I have that you won't expose them anyway? My word. And the fact that I gain nothing from destroying the Lannisters after they're neutralized. I want them out of King's Landing, not dead. Tywin's eyes bored into Jon's. Who are you? Really? Someone who sees further ahead than most? Someone who knows what's coming and needs to prepare the realm to survive it? Tywin studied him for another long moment, then nodded. Once. Sharp. Very well, I'll take my children west. But if you betray this agreement, then you'll have nothing left to lose. I understand. Cersei was needed at Casterly Rock to manage Lannister interests. Jaime, concerned for his family's welfare, requested leave from the Kingsguard to serve his house. Robert, still angry about Littlefinger's betrayal and suspicious of Lannister loyalty, approved both requests. Within 2 weeks, Cersei, Jaime, and the children departed for the west. Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella were quietly removed from the succession line. Not publicly declared bastards, that would have caused too much upheaval, but simply set aside. The official reason was that with Cersei leaving, the children should remain with their mother. Robert didn't care. He'd never loved Joffrey anyway. With the Lannisters gone, only Varys remained. Jon found him in the Spider's usual haunt, the council chambers, late at night. Lord Varys. Varys turned. Jon Snow. Or should I say, Aegon Targaryen. Jon's expression didn't change. You know, I suspected. Your knowledge, your demeanor, your ambitions. Tell me, are you truly him, or merely possessed of his memories? Does it matter? To me, greatly. I serve the realm, but I need to know, who am I serving? I am who the realm needs. And you, Lord Varys, have always claimed to serve the realm. So serve me, and if I refuse, then you'll find the realm has no more use for you. Your network of little birds becomes a liability. Your foreign ties become suspect. But if you join me, if you lend your intelligence to preparing for what's coming, you'll be rewarded. Varys circled Jon slowly. What is coming? The dead. The others. The long night. We have perhaps 5 years to prepare. I need your spies, your intelligence, your reach. And the realm? Will you be a good king? I will be the king the realm needs to survive. That's all I can promise. Varys stopped circling. You're different from the Targaryens I've known. More pragmatic, less mad. I've already ruled once, already made mistakes. I won't repeat them. And Daenerys Targaryen, the girl across the narrow sea? What of her? She's family, and we'll need her dragons when the dead come. I won't kill her. I'll bring her home. Varys studied him for a long moment, then bowed. Then you have my service. Your Grace, 2 weeks later, Robert Baratheon died. Not from a boar, from infection. The wound from the hunt had festered despite the maester's care. Robert developed fever, sepsis. He lingered for 3 days, weakening steadily. On the last day, he called for Ned and Jon. They stood by his bedside. Robert looked smaller now, the mighty warrior reduced to a sick old man. Ned, Robert whispered, I was wrong, about everything. The throne, it's a burden I never wanted, but someone must carry it. Your son, Joffrey, is weak. We both know it. The realm needs someone else, someone strong. He looked at Jon. This boy, he saved my life. Exposed traitors. He's more than he appears, Ned. Your Grace, I know it, and I need to know the realm will be cared for. Robert's hand reached out. Jon took it. Promise me, Robert said. Promise me you'll protect the realm, however you can. I promise, Your Grace. Robert smiled weakly. You remind me of someone. Can't remember who. But you've got something the realm needs. He closed his eyes. His breathing slowed, stopped. Robert Baratheon, King of the 7 Kingdoms, was dead. Ned and Jon stood in silence. "What happens now?" Ned asked. "Now we prevent chaos. Joffrey is gone. The succession is unclear. We need a regency council, someone to hold the realm together while we prepare." "Who?" "You. As Lord Regent, with me as Lord Commander of the King's Peace." "That's not a real title." "It is now. I'll command the city watch, keep order in the capital, and will bring in advisors we trust. Tyrion as Master of Coin, Varys as Master of Whisperers, Ser Barristan as Lord Commander of the King's Guard. This is dangerous, Jon. Everything is dangerous. But this is necessary." The Regency Council was announced the next day. With no clear heir, Joffrey and his siblings removed from succession, Stannis and Renly far from the capital, the lords accepted it as a temporary measure. Ned Stark ruled as Lord Regent. Jon Snow, the bastard who'd proven himself useful, commanded the Gold Cloaks and kept order. And in the background, Jon began preparing the realm. He sent resources to the Wall. Dragonglass weapons were forged. Watchtowers were built in the north. Food stores were stockpiled. Not everyone believed his warnings about the others, but they obeyed because he'd proven competent. 6 months after Robert's death, news arrived from across the narrow sea. Daenerys Targaryen had hatched 3 dragons. The small council erupted in panic. "Dragons! We need to send assassins. She'll invade, burn the realm." But Jon smiled. "No," he said calmly. "We don't send assassins. We send an invitation." "What?" Ned stared at him. "Daenerys Targaryen is the last of her house. She has dragons. The realm will need those dragons when the dead come. We don't make her our enemy. We make her our ally. She'll never come here peacefully. Not after what Robert did to her family. She will if the invitation comes from the right person." Jon stood. "I'll write to her. In High Valyrian, I'll tell her the truth, that Aegon the Conqueror has returned, that the long night is coming, that her family's ancient purpose was to prepare for this, and that she needs to come home." He wrote the letter himself, carefully in flowing Valyrian script. "Daenerys Stormborn, blood of the dragon. I am Aegon, called the Conqueror, returned to this world in a new form. The throne awaits you, not as conquest, but as inheritance. The long night approaches. The dead will rise, and we must stand together or fall separately. Come home, child of the dragon. Your ancestor calls you." And one of the petrified dragon eggs Jon had retrieved from Dragonstone. Months passed. Jon continued his work. The realm stabilized. The preparations continued. And then, one day, sails appeared on the horizon. 3 ships, flying the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen. Daenerys had come. The city watched in awe as 3 dragons circled the Red Keep. Drogon, massive and black. Rhaegal, green and bronze. Viserion, cream and gold. Dragons returned to King's Landing for the first time in over a century. Daenerys Targaryen landed in the courtyard. She dismounted from Drogon, followed by her unsullied guard and blood riders. She was young, barely 17, silver-haired and purple-eyed. A true Targaryen. Jon stood waiting, not sitting on the Iron Throne. He hadn't claimed it yet, standing before it. Daenerys approached. Her eyes found his, held his gaze. "You called yourself Aegon the Conqueror. Prove it." Jon responded in High Valyrian, his accent perfect, archaic. Aegon's conquest lasted 2 years. He burned Harrenhal. He took Storm's End. He married his sisters Visenya and Rhaenys. And he saw a vision of the long night, a darkness from the north that would consume all the world of men. He conquered Westeros, not for glory, but to prepare for this darkness, because only a united realm could survive it. He stepped forward. "That darkness is coming, Daenerys, and I need you, not as a subject, as family, something that transcended the young body he wore." "You're not mad," she said quietly. "No, just very, very old." They spoke for hours. In Valyrian, about the prophecy, about the dragons, about the threat from the north. Finally, Daenerys agreed. She wouldn't challenge Jon's authority, he wouldn't challenge hers. They would rule together, 2 Targaryens, reunited after centuries, united against the darkness. The coronation was held in the Dragon Pit. Jon Baratheon, called Jon Snow, called Aegon Targaryen, was crowned Aegon VI, 6th of his name. Daenerys stood beside him, crowned as queen. The 7 kingdoms sent representatives, some willing, some grudging, all pragmatic. Aegon addressed them in the ancient amphitheater where dragons had once performed. 300 years ago, I stood in this city and forged a kingdom from 7 broken realms. I did not do it for glory. I did it for survival, because I saw what was coming, a darkness that would swallow us all. He raised a Balerion steel sword, not Blackfire, not Dark Sister, but a blade reforged for this purpose. That darkness is here. The dead are rising beyond the wall. The Night King marches, and we have a choice, unite or die. The lords looked at each other, whispered, calculated. Every man, every house, every kingdom, you will contribute to this fight, or you will be cast out. There is no neutrality. There is no sitting aside. There is only with us or against us. One by one they knelt. The preparations intensified. The Night's Watch was reinforced with thousands of soldiers. Dragonglass weapons were distributed across the realm. Maesters studied ancient texts. Food stores were built. Tyrion served as hand, managing the logistics. Varys' spy network tracked every movement beyond the wall. Ned Stark led the northern forces, and the dragons grew larger, trained for war. Jon had a private moment with Arya, who'd come south from Winterfell. "You're different," she said. "You're not Jon anymore. I'm still your brother, just older than you knew. Can we win? Against the dead? I don't know, but we'll fight, and if we fall together." They embraced. In the painted table chamber, Jon and Daenerys discussed strategy. "You've changed the world in less than a year," Daenerys said. "I didn't change it. I remembered it, and I'm trying to save it. Do you think we can? I think we have 3 dragons, 2 armies, and the knowledge of how the first men defeated the others before. That's more than they had last time. But last time, there was a hero. Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised." Jon looked at her. Maybe the prince was promised twice. Once in legend, once in me. The final preparations were made. The armies assembled. Jon rode north with the greatest host ever gathered, 50,000 men. Northern, southern, Dothraki, unsullied. United under the dragon banner. Daenerys flew overhead on Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion flanking her. They reached the wall. The massive structure stretched for hundreds of miles, ancient and imposing. Jon dismounted, walked to the base alone, placed his hand on the ice, a flash of memory, the first men and the children of the forest building it, imbuing it with magic, making it a barrier against the darkness. Jon climbed to the top. He looked north into the haunted forest. In the distance, he saw it, an unnatural blizzard moving south, and within the blizzard thousands of glowing blue eyes. The army of the dead had arrived. Jon drew his sword. Behind him, the armies of the living assembled. Above, 3 dragons circled. He thought of everything that had led to this moment. His death as Aegon. His rebirth as Jon, the struggle to reclaim his throne, the alliances forged, the preparations made. All for this. The prophecy fulfilled. "I forged a kingdom to prepare for this moment," he whispered. "I conquered 7 realms to unite them against this threat. And now, 300 years later, the prophecy comes to pass." He raised his sword high. "Fire and blood," the army roared back. "Fire and blood!" Daenerys' dragons screamed. Drogon's roar echoed across the wall, primal and ancient. The dead marched closer. Thousands, tens of thousands. An endless tide, but the living stood ready. Jon looked down the line, saw Ned commanding the Northmen, saw Tyrion coordinating the artillery, saw Varys' information network relaying intelligence, saw the Unsullied standing in perfect formation, saw the Dothraki ready to charge. And above, dragons, real dragons, fire made flesh. He'd done it, united the realm, prepared them for this. Whether they would win, he didn't know. But they would fight. The blizzard reached the wall. The dead began to climb. And Jon Snow, who was Aegon Targaryen, who had conquered and died and lived again, stood at the center of it all, sword raised. Dragons screaming, the fate of humanity balanced on the edge of a blade. "They called me the Conqueror," he said quietly. "They called me a tyrant, a visionary, a monster, but I was always just a man trying to save the world. And now, at the end of all things, I finally understand. The Song of Ice and Fire was never about conquest. It was about sacrifice, and I'm ready." The first white reached the top of the wall. Jon's blade took its head. The battle for the dawn had begun, and this time humanity had a chance, because Aegon the Conqueror had returned. and he would not fail again. 10 years later, the wall stood, scarred, damaged, but standing. The battle for the dawn had lasted 3 days, 3 days of fire and ice, of steel and death, of dragons burning the dead and the living holding the line. They'd won. Barely. The Night King had fallen to Daenerys' dragonfire and Jon's Valyrian steel. The army of the dead had collapsed. But the cost had been terrible. Tens of thousands dead. 1 dragon lost. The wall itself cracked and broken in places. In the aftermath, Jon and Daenerys had ruled together, rebuilt the realm, strengthened the wall with new magic, new defenses. Now Jon stood in the godswood of the Red Keep, a garden he'd planted years ago. Ghost lay at his feet, old and gray but still loyal. Daenerys found him there. "Still brooding?" she asked, remembering. "You saved the world. Twice. You're allowed to rest now." "I'm not very good at resting. I've noticed." They stood together in comfortable silence. "Do you ever regret it?" Daenerys asked. "Coming back? Doing it all again?" Jon considered. "No. I was given a second chance. A chance to complete the work I started 300 years ago. How could I regret that, even with everything it cost? Because the alternative was extinction, and we survived." Daenerys took his hand. "We did. Together." In the distance, dragons roared. Their children, a new generation of dragons born from the 3 that had survived, played in the sky. The realm was at peace. The long night had passed. Humanity endured. And Aegon the Conqueror, reborn as Jon Snow, had fulfilled his purpose. The Song of Ice and Fire was complete, and the world lived on. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.